Hello and welcome, I'm Misstical. This is Misstical Gaming. We are jumping into Watch Your Realms and I've been asked to go over GR3-19. A couple of things. Firstly, my account is well past that and I didn't want to roll up some terrible gear to make it more authentic running through it. And I also didn't want to pile on a load of epics, put them in Ancient Soulbound Arcana set and go, ooh, free to play. So I thought we'd just have a chat about it. So if you're looking for a full demo on how to do it, this isn't the video for you. If you want to listen to someone chat about good heroes, bad, positioning, how to build up your team, what to look for, that sort of thing, this very much is for you. So without that, let's jump in. Where do we find information about it? Well, you can go on the internet, and if you're here, you've already started that role anyway. Now the other place to go is you've got a little guides button here, and when we click that, we would get recommended lineups, which is okay. You can have a look at what other people have done, although some of them might be a bit over the top for what was required to do this. But essentially, hopefully, you'll be able to have a look at it and go, this is the hero they used, this is what it was being used for, and therefore I'm going to put this hero in and swap it, and there shouldn't be too much of a change. And you can have a look at their heroes and sort of see the damage stats as well on who done what. So it's not terrible, but I'm not overly a big fan of it, but I think it's an okay starting point. Popular heroes, you can see all the popular ones that people use, which is great. It's nice. Now, quick one, Hex, very usable. I don't have him, but if you've got him, feel free to use him. And we'll touch on why that's a weird option later on. They've got the recommended heroes, so they've got the highly recommended ones up here with thumbs up on them. And then we've got the recommended ones down below as well. So you've got those options as well. But that's fine. But if you made a team up with just those, would you finish it? I don't know, maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't, I'm not 100% sure, but it's probably a good idea to know what's going on in the fight. So, and then we've got map info here, and we'll come back to that in a second, but let's have a look at the map itself. Right, so when we break this down, we've got three distinct areas within this fight. We've got the left hand side, and what we want up here is we want some AoE damage dealing. So when we're picking up our team, we want someone who's going to fit on one of these two blocks here, and they're going to do AoE for us, and we'll have a look at a couple of champions and who's good and what you should be looking at when you're picking up these champions, that sort of thing. So that's the first area. This is the right hand side, and we've got one platform over there, and we may want to rotate a couple of champions through on it, so we got to go careful with that area there. But it is possibly the point where you start your fight. Well, that's the point where you want to really look at to think, this is how I'm going to build my team. Have I got someone to go on that platform? If I haven't, then I'm going to build my team this way. If I have, then I'm going to build my team that way. So we'll have a look at that area in a minute. And then lastly, we've got the central area. Now this is where the boss is going to come down, and he's going to produce those ads, and then he's going to hit out from there, and that's the main central platform. That's where the bulk of our probable damage is going to do, and that's where we're going to need to put the bulk of our heroes. So let's bear that in mind as well. And then as we go forward, we can start building up who's going to go on where and what platforms and that sort of thing, depending on what heroes we've got. But your account is going to be very different from mine and from someone else's. So, and to save you trying to look for a guide that's got precisely the same heroes as you and the gear that you've got, that sort of thing, we will look at how you actually build a team, and then you can sort of build your own. Now if we have a look here and we have a look at the map info, it's going to tell us about the mobs as well. Now something important to notice about the mobs is they have light armor, their defense is lower than their magic resistance, and as we click through the different mobs, we can see that light armor, defense, magic resistance, light armor, defense is lower than magic resistance, and that carries on all the way through. We know what we're looking for now. So when we're doing this, one of the things we want to have a look at then, or be aware of, is the fact that they all have light armor on. Now it's not the most important thing, but it is worth being aware of, that when we pick up our champions, piercing damage is 20% more damage to light armor. So when you pick up marksman, you've got piercing damage, that's going to be a bonus for you, because you're going to just pick up a straight 20% damage increase there. So That's worth considering for you as you build up your team. But like we said earlier, now where are we going to build up our team from, or where are we going to start? Now we're going to start from the right hand side. Now if we remember, the right hand side has just got this one platform on, that one platform there, and you need a very specific type of hero to go on there. You need a hero with invisibility. Now there's only a few of them, so let's go and have a quick look at them. So here we go. Here's our first champion with invisibility. Now she's part of the Nightmare faction. She's marksman, brilliant, and does piercing damage, also good. And then here's her passive here. Ghastly stealth, when deployed, gains invisibility for 20 seconds. Invisibility means cannot be targeted, which is brilliant. So there is one champion there. Next champion here is Varus. When deployed, gains invisibility. Basic attack changes to 2 strikes in a row when attacking targets with HP lower than 30%. So there we go, there's our next champion. But bear in mind, if you're building up an epic, you'll probably have to upgrade the gear because a legendary would have more stats. So very careful of that. But yeah, it also has invisibility, so very possibly usable there. Now the next 2 are really good, possibly best in the slot, maybe. When the ultimate is not activated, remains in the invisibility state. How brilliant is that? So if she's not using her ultimate to nuke people, she's invisible. Absolutely fantastic. So if you've got her, use her. Fantastic champion. Now the next one is also very good as well, because firstly she was in a shard summon, so if you got her for that, brilliant. You've probably already cleared 319, but if you have it and you've picked her up, absolutely fantastic. So couple of things: does piercing damage, result, gets invisibility, brilliant, and then also is a Piercer Lord. Now a Piercer Lord is also something you really want to consider getting in your team. If you've got a Piercer Lord, this is fantastic, because all the Piercer Lords do this one thing right at the bottom here. Ranges are also increased, so everyone on the Piercer side of it gets a range increase, which ups your ability of heroes that you can use to do this. So you want a Piercer Lord. If not, then you need champions with a longer range, and that really limits you down to sort of Idril and Setram, so, and maybe some fighters, but we'll come on to those later. So here we go. She's absolutely fantastic. She has a redeployment time of -20 when you've fully done her up, so I think that is part of level 5 promotions or something like that. So, but fully wake her up, skill her up, that sort of thing. You'll have no qualms with it. Really good champion for this slot. When deployed, gains invisibility. Absolutely great. Now this can only be triggered one time for each deployment, so she's got a really short redeployment time. This redeployment time comes down, so I think you get it down to about 40 seconds for a redeployment time. Chuck in a Volker with Ray 1 and then you can get it down to sort of 30 seconds for redeployment time. So absolutely fantastic, and you can redeploy her, and then she gets this visibility and the bonus damage when she's first deployed on the first time from a deployment. So really good, absolutely fantastic champion you can use. So if you don't have a champion with invisibility, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to use Idril, and the point of using Idril is this bottom part here of her ultimate, endless shots. So ultimate's hero's attack range becomes unlimited, and her attacks no longer prioritise airborne units. That's not an issue about prioritising airborne units. Everything in GR3 is an airborne unit, but her attack size is infinite. So that's what we're looking for. You need one of those champions realistically to get this done. So this is it. When we've got someone come over from that right hand side, you've only got the one slot, so you have to use someone who's got invisibility to go down there and attack them. If you don't, then you're going to get attacked, and there's no way you can get healing to them, so you've got an issue there. So that is part of the problem. So it's either one of the 4 champions with invisibility, or you use Idril when her ultimate is up. So when she casts her ultimate, her range then becomes infinite. So if we have a look, range is infinite. She's going to target the person who's closest to the exit, so she'll target him straight away. There we go. And that's why we're using an Idril instead of an invisibility champion. Now the next thing we want to have a look at is this area here on the left hand side of the map. We want to do some AoE damage. So who are we going to be using for AoE damage? Let's have a quick look at some of the options that we've got. So a nice epic option we've got is what absolutely fantastic. It's used all over the game. If you get one, book him up, max him out. You won't have an issue for a lot of the game. You're going to be using him. I was even using him in Gear Dungeon 1 Stage 3 or something like that for the knockback, and he still gets used in GVG a lot as well. So absolutely fantastic champion. He's got this long old range, and his ultimate there does a fair amount of damage, and it's nice and easy to get to. I mean, it just really is good. A good solid champion, easily to build out, and you can get him to do that job for you on the left hand side, but he's not the only one. Another hero here, we've got Nyx. Now Nyx is another classic champ. She does lots of AoE damage, and have a look at this range she's got. It's a bit longer when you actually get her maxed out. So if we put her up, there we go, we actually get a little bit further on her range when she's properly maxed out. Now her ultimate here, let's have a quick chat about ultimates just in case anyone doesn't know. So the numbers and the things you see across here, the number on the far left, this 1100, this is how much rage it costs her to cast her ultimate. So she's going to need 1100 rage, and then she can cast her ultimate. This number here, the 400, that's how much rage, when you put her down for the first time, that's how much rage she gets. That's her initial rage she starts the fight with. The next number is the duration of the ultimate, so that's how long it goes on for. Now, depending on how your champion does when you place them on the left hand side, you may need to put skill books into them if you haven't. Now, there are two waves that come on the left hand side, so you will need the person on the left to do one ultimate when they're first coming along and have enough time to get enough rage back to be ready to cast it again on the next lot coming through. So bear that in mind. Now, skill cost here minus 100, so that would come down to 1000, and initial rage plus 100, so that would go up to 500. And that's how this actually works when you are looking at it, so do bear that in mind. My personal fate, I do absolutely love him. Razak, absolutely fantastic. There's his ultimate there. It starts at 900. 900 is what you need to actually cast it. You can get the skill cost down to 800, but his initial rage is 700. So when you put him down, he's almost ready to cast his ultimate straight away. Absolutely love him. I think he's great. I think he looks good, and I just like him. So bear that in mind. There are other champions available, Razak as well. Now, depending on when you watch this, on the Forerunner, he's been changed, and he's absolutely brilliant now and very viable for that left hand side. If you're looking at global, at the time this video gets released, he hasn't been changed yet, but he will be soon because he's on Forerunner as being changed. So bear that in mind. Very viable in the near future for that left hand side of the map. Now, the next part we want to have a look at is this central part. What we want is some really good solid single target damage dealers. Now, you know your account, you know who that is on your account and who you've got, so bear that in mind. Now let's have a look at this. This is the popular hero. So Hex up there. Now Hex does magic damage. He doesn't do the piercer type of damage. So he's not going to get that 20%. Why do people use him there? Because he hits like a truck. Absolutely smashes it. So if you've got him, don't think, oh, he does the wrong type of damage, I'm not using him. He hits really hard. Absolutely no issues using him. Now Ivan not only does a really good single target damage dealer, he comes with that Piercer Lord buff as well, so all the piercers are going to get extra damage out of him, and they're going to get that rage increase as well, so fantastic. Silas, if you've got Silas, absolutely fantastic, a good single target damage dealer. Now if you haven't, moving down the list, we've got Setram. If you haven't got a Piercer Lord, then Setram's going to do wonders for you. He's got that range and he's got that single target damage for you, so he can be used quite happily. Idril, we can put her down there. She's still doing that single target damage, and she's got that ultimate to hit the people on the right hand side. You may have to time it. You may have to actually sort your account out so you can time when she's doing it, but she is very usable there. Now Calypso, another person as well, absolutely fantastic. She's got single target damage dealer. The longer she's there for, the more damage she actually does, because she does a little summoning, so she'll have more damage the longer the fight goes on. Other people as well. Lucius is now new in the game as well, so he hasn't been around for that long. So if you've got one, nice burst damage, yeah, so absolutely you can use him as well. Now if you're single target damage isn't doing enough damage, you can buff it as well. So this is where Dolores comes in, so you may wish to use a Dolores. Now let's have a couple of rounds and a little play test at the start. So here's our lineup here. We're just going to do the start of the fight and have a little look at it and see what's actually happening, and we'll go on from there. So when we start the fight, there are two ways that people generically start the fight. I mean, there are probably thousands of little ways, but there are two sort of generic ways. Now, depending on how good your DPS is, when people put their Idril down, they either put their Idril down here and face her forward, so you can then start, if you've got an Archer Lord, a Piercer Lord, DPS in the mobs over here. That is one option. If your DPS is better, then people generally put her at the back, and even with a range increase, she still doesn't reach them. Now, why is that? That is because Dolores would then fit in here, and Dolores would hit your next champion that you put on the left hand side, whoever is your next single target damage dealer. So you sort of want two of them, one on either side, so you can hit both sides of that central aisle. Now, if your Idril is strong enough, that's probably a better positioning, because you can use up Dolores there. Dolores' ultimate will trigger on both heroes. If you're doing it the other way around, then you'll only get one hero as well. So very much account dependent on how your account's developed and what heroes you've got or champions you've got and where you can actually put them. So bear that in mind when you're doing yours. It's more important to actually kill the mobs than it is to think, well, my favorite content creator uses it this way around, I wouldn't really worry about that. Just use whatever works for your account. The idea is to get past it, not to worry about anything else. Right, now we have to watch this. So what we're doing is we're just putting some heroes down. We're killing off the mobs here because I'm overgeared for this, and we kill him off. And then we'll let the boss turn up. Now the boss does something quite interesting, or not interesting, noteworthy, or something you should be aware of. So the boss will summon a load of ads, and you want to kill those off. Then he does a basic attack. So there's his basic attack, and he hit either. Now he hits the last champion you've put down, subject to them having or not having invisibility. So our last champion we put down was over here. She had invisibility, so the boss didn't attack him. He attacked the next hero down. Boom. Last hero placed down. So you can get the boss to chase whoever you've put down last with his basic attack. So this time he will summon his ads, and then he will attack Dolores. Ad summoned, does his basic attack, Dolores. Next time round, we will put someone else down. So when you're placing your heroes down, let's get rid of you. And let's get rid of you in case you do too much damage to the boss. So when you're placing your heroes down, it's not only where you place them, but when you place them as well. So you can make sure that the boss only does, so for example, one hit on champions as you let the boss chase you around as you're doing damage to him. You haven't got to place him there. Now, if you do want to do that, you can actually place a tank down at one of these units here, or you can place a fighter down to do some more DPS to the boss. So when you're looking at fighters that you want to use, for example, Arrogance is a good choice. Anti-air damage, so he attacks airborne units quite happily. Zilitude is another one. She does magic damage, but don't overly worry about that too much. You're just not going to get the 20% that someone else would if they're doing piercing damage, but you're going to be hard pushed to find a fighter that does piercing damage, but we'll come on to that in a second. So there are fighters around that can do it for you. There we go. There's a fighter, does piercing damage. You can go down and he can actually hit the boss for you as well. That's not an issue. And then strangely enough, there are a couple of others as well. Now, normally it should say within their kit anti-air bonus damage, and it should say airborne units take X amount of damage. So it generally mentions the fact that you're taking out airborne units as well, although not all of them do mention it. Here's Volker, for example. Now, she doesn't actually hit airborne units. She's got a nice range. She does magic vulnerability. She's doing magic damage. She's a fighter, but her ultimate does hit airborne units. So that's a little weird, but worth knowing. If you had to use her, I wouldn't. I think there are better heroes about that you can probably use instead. I don't think anywhere does it mention that she hits airborne units, but she absolutely does. So there we go. There's a couple of heroes there, or fighters you can use as well in the mix. This time through, we should be able to use our fighters, and we'll see if we can take down the ranged here. There we go. There, she's absolutely not hitting anyone or bothering to attack, which is somewhat pretty much expected until we start casting her ultimate, and then during her ultimate she then hits them. So Perfectly usable there if you want a little extra DPS. And then Helga there, she does actually hit straight away on all her attacks. She will quite happily hit the airborne units without too many worries, and that would include the boss as well. There you go, damaging the boss as well. So there we go, there are fighters that you can use. So if you see people using fighters, they're the sort of fighters that people are going to be using to actually do additional DPS or damage to those adds on the boss as well. But remember, when you put your fighter down, that'll be the last person down, they will get attacked, so bear that in mind. But it also, you can place them there for someone who's going to have a bit more HP, and maybe some of your archers, and you can use them as someone to tank up some or soak up some of the damage, as opposed to your marksman taking it up. Now we've got a couple of other people we want to shout out as champions that we're going to be using. If you're going to be rotating your heroes through, so such as if you've got an invisibility champion you're taking down and putting back up, or what you'll see in other guides is people removing champions and then putting back up. Now what you're going to want is you're going to want a Volker. Where'd you get Volker from? She is free to play. You've just got to do the storyline. When you complete the storyline, you get Volker. Now you also, not only do you want to get her, but you want to be doing Tide. You want to do Tide Wave 105, because when you've done Tide Wave 105, you get a Soul Stone for her, and the Soul Stone you get enables her to take into Awaken 1, and then allies redeployment time minus 25%. Fantastic. That's why a lot of people use her, classified as free to play, because you get it from the storyline, and you can get the A1 done for next to nothing as well, and you can get that done relatively early in the game. So bear in mind, she's a distinct possibility if you're rolling champions through on a redeployment. Next sort of support hero that people are going to be using is going to be using a Laurel. Now, important things to note about a Laurel. Firstly, you need her to promoted 5. Promoted 5, she has this. Increases rage regen attack by 1. Additionally, upon death, provides surrounding allies with a restoration of 50% of their rage cap upon death. And that also means when you pull her out as well. So when you withdraw her, everyone, surrounding allies, get 50%. Now bear in mind, it's surrounding allies. It is not, when you look at her range, it is surrounding allies. So they are the 8 blocks directly around her. When you place her somewhere central, it's not everyone within her range. Go careful of that. And lastly, you might see some people with this support hero, it's Autumn. Now, why do people use an Autumn? It is because of her ultimate here. Grants crit damage increase to all allies in range, excluding the caster. Okay, so she gets crit damage from there, and then she's got a passive here. Whenever, and that's her ultimate, grants crit rate increase to all allies as well. So she'll get a 30% crit rate increase and give them a crit damage increase as well of 60%. So some people use her to up that damage spec as well. So that's what people are using her for. So if you're lucky enough to be able to get hold of some mythic artifacts and you start to roll some up, and you've got one for the marksman, Spirit Siphon, absolutely brilliant, as long as they're doing damage to the same target. So that's central aisle there, where they're doing the boss and those adds, and you've got your single target damage dealers. This is where this artifact comes into play for you. Next one doesn't really have a lot of use here, so you're going to get a bit of healing back, but you shouldn't really be taking that much damage, and if you are, you might want to put a healer into your team to chuck in some healing. This one here, absolutely fantastic. When there are no allies within one tile, AoE damage is increased by 20%. So on that left hand side where you're doing your AoE, you might want to think, well, actually, I'm going to put this, a sharpshooter crest, on that champion, and therefore I'm going to up their damage as well. Another way you can squeeze a bit more damage out of your team. Bloodbond Signet reduces max HP by 30% and increases crit damage by 20%. Maybe you shouldn't be taking that much damage, so could be worthwhile if you've got one available. And then the next one, Reaper's Emblem, increases damage by 5% after killing the target, increases additional damage of 5%, stacks up 2 times. This effect lasts for 2 damage. So those people who are doing AoE, they might be usable there, particularly if on AoE, one of the champions I forgot to mention was Esme. She does like a poison tick, so very possible epic champion you could use there as well. So bear that in mind if you're using her. It's just another place you can get some extra damage from, because as you roll them up, you get additional attack as well. So, which is always good news for your attack champions. So when you finally come round to making up your team, remember, first question, do you have an invisibility champion? Yes, no. If no, you're going to use an Idril. Well, with my Idril, I'm going to probably want to I'm going to want to make sure her rage comes online. So I'm going to take a Laurel with me as well. I'm going to want to update her damage, so I'm going to put Dolores in there, and I'm going to want her to come round as quickly as possible, so I'm going to take a Volker. So you want to think about the left hand side, and the fact you've got damage to the left hand side, so I'm going to take Esme because we didn't mention her earlier, so we'll pop her in, and then it's back to single target damage dealers. Well, I've got Silas, so I'm going to take him, and I'm going to use him, and then I'm going to want a healer. Well, I'm going to use you as my healer, and then who else do I actually need or want to take? Well, I'm going to need to take some lords as well, so I'm going to look for a Piercer Lord. One of the first things I want to look for, and there's Piercer Lord, so I'm going to put you up there. I'm going to make sure I've got my Piercers actually on there as well, and then after that maybe I want to take a fighter with me as well. So if I look for my fighters to see which fighters I've got that can hit airborne units, there we go, we use her as well, and then after that I'm just going to have a look down here to think what fighters I've got or which people I want to buff as well, because I can take another Lord, and I'm just going to put someone else in there as a Lord to actually buff up some of this. Now I might want to buff up, I don't know, let's say we're going to buff up Dolores and give her some more stats. So you're going to look for your Lord, and there we go, we're going to use Pyrus and put Pyrus in there as well, and all he's doing there is giving a stat increase from his Lord bonus of 10% to Dolores. That's all he's actually doing, that's all he's there for, and then when you start your fight you should be able to go into your fight and you should be able to carry the fight through. We can get our champions down. I'm going to put Idril down first. She's facing up. Now the reason I'm doing this is I assume that my DPS isn't strong enough, and I put Dolores in behind her. The reason for this is I want to buff her up afterwards and make sure that my Idril can do as much damage as humanly possible. And that's what I'm doing there. Now after that I place my Silas down on the left hand side, and I am all good. I can start taking care of these ads, and that's the first thing you want to be able to do before the boss pretty much arrives. You want to make sure you've taken care of the ads. Now the next thing you're looking for is that right hand side coming in. Now a lot of people will actually time this and leave this for as long as possible, so you can, while the timer's ticking down, just leave it until you see the warning sign. When the warning sign comes up, that's the boss approaching. There we go. So you might want to trigger your ultimate now. You can then kill, and then you've got as much time as possible to actually ultimate down the boss. Once that right hand side is taken care of, your next worry isn't so much the boss. Now the boss attacks the last person put down, and you may not want the boss to keep attacking that person, so wait until that attack's done, then place your person on the left hand side. The person placed on the left hand side, you know the boss is going to summon up his ads. He'll summon up his ads, and then after that he's going to do his basic attack. His basic attack is to the next person placed down. There we go, and now we place our next person down. Next person I want to put down, for example, would be Laurel. So Laurel next time is going to actually boost up the rage of Dolores and Idril, but I may as well leave her there to take a hit as well. So I've got Esme on the left hand side. There you go, Laurel. Let's assume the boss actually kills us. That wipes out Laurel for me, and now we've got our DPS almost ready to go, and we can start taking out the ad on the left hand side before we go back to the boss. And that's pretty much how we go through this. Now the next thing you've got to worry about is, again, this right hand side. Now if you've got rid of Idril, or Laurel, sorry, then the boss will start attacking you again, so you may wish to put up your champions. Just bear in mind that the boss attacks the last one put down. Now because we've got Idril's range is so big, she will attack the mobs that come out the right here, which is perfectly fine if you want to do it that way. Absolutely fine. You can also take someone else instead of a fighter, or instead of your likes of Volker or another Lord. You might want to think, well actually I want a Lord who can do some range damage, so you might want to take down your champion here. Now mine hasn't got any range or any gear. I think they're still level 1, but they can actually take out the damage for you. You may want to actually put your Laurel down and remove them and see if you can get enough rage to come back through to attack over to the right. There's a couple of ways you can do it, or you can place people down on this platform here facing to the right. Got a lot of options there, and it shouldn't be your final thought really. That shouldn't be the issue that's causing you to lose the fight. There are many things you can do before you get to that stage, because then after that you really have cleared the fight pretty much. So you're going to get another round over on the left hand side, which isn't a great issue, and you'll probably get someone over on the right hand side again. Here they come. So we can trigger Dolores, we trigger Idril, that will take care of them. Idril's going to take up a load of people over here. She's somewhat overgeared for this, but you would then use your ultimate on whoever you've got down on the left hand side. And then if you've removed people early enough, you can actually put up someone like your Silas, Setram, or whoever you've used to take down the boss over on that side. And that will we've used up stamina, never mind. So that's pretty much the idea of the fight. Now you make up your own team on how your account is geared, or what heroes you've got on your account. This is just a sort of concept on how you should approach looking for a team and the champions you should look for. Now don't think you're going to do it with level 12 gear and champions who haven't got 100. You want to push towards that 100% crit rate. You want to make sure that you've got attack percentages running down the right hand side with 100% crit rate, or some crit damage with crit rate and attack percentages. Substats, and you want good rolls on them as well. So this gearing option is something you do want to consider. Your account may not be ready to do stage 319, and that is something you have to be honest with yourself about, to say, well, actually I need to go and farm some more gear up, that sort of thing, or I need to get some more heroes, I want to be a bit luckier with them. But that's essentially what you're looking for. So I hope this has been helpful. Hope it's a way ahead for you to think, well, this is my team, this is what I've used. Let us know in the comments below the teams you're using and what heroes you're getting away with and where you think they best suit, and because other people can read them and then go from there as well. So okay, right, that's me done. I'll see you in a video again tomorrow. We will start to look at the new event dropping tomorrow. Thank you very much for your time. I'll see you in a video again soon. If you could do the old thumbs up, like and subscribe if you've got this far, I definitely deserve it. Thank you very much for your time. Cheers, goodbye.